This is Tales from the Pros, where business leaders and influencers share their stories of inspiration, struggles, and successes. And I'm your host, Michael Giorgio. Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to Tales from the Pros, and this is Michael Giorgio, your host and co-founder of Imagine Ovation. I have a very, very special guest with me here today, and he is the influential Jay Baer. Jay is one of the top digital marketing and customer service strategists, world-renowned speaker, New York Times bestselling author of 5 books, and a technology investor. And he also founded Convince and Convert, which I'm sure you've seen a lot of their content all over social media. And Convince and Convert was Jay's 5th multi-million-dollar venture. Jay, thank you so much for being here with me, man. I appreciate it.
Michael, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Jay, what really caught my attention, just kind of, reaching out to you in regards to this podcast. First of all, you're everywhere on social media. I see you all over Twitter. Me and my company have been following you guys for a long time now, and your content really is amazing. It's just so it gives us a lot of reassurance whether we're doing something right or wrong, and you could see that it's credible information, it's researched, and it's truly valuable. And I think a lot of millions of people around the world can agree with that. So that's really what caught our attention. And
thank you.
And also your Social Pros podcast. I love it. I've heard you interview a lot of different influencers around the world as well, and business leaders. So that's another reason I wanted to interview you. And you know what's actually
Thanks.
crazy?
Yeah, we just went over 300 episodes of that show, which is crazy. I've been doing it for almost 8 years.
You've been doing that? It's been going on that long? 8 years. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this is 8th year. So we just we're at episode 306 or something like that. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah. And you know what's crazy is that I was actually, I didn't tell you this in the pre-interview, but I was actually on the I think it was the Content Pros. I was on that year and a half ago, I think it was.
That's maybe? Awesome. Yeah, we still run that show. We just changed the name of it to the Content Experience, but yeah, we still produce that podcast.
Cool, man. Awesome. So just to kind of kick things off, Jay, I want to talk a little bit about your latest book. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you bet. My most recent book that's out on the market is called Hug Your Haters. It's all about how to embrace complaints and keep your customers. It's really the first ever kind of modern book on customer service and how to use technology in a customer service context. So how to use social media, ratings and review sites, discussion boards and forums to keep your customers satisfied. And the big move there is that customer service is a spectator sport now, right? People can see how you interact with other customers, whether it's on Facebook or Yelp or anywhere else. And so that requires a fundamental re-examination of how you do customer service and how important customer service is in your company. So that book is out now and is doing great. And I'm just starting to work. Well, I just turned in to my publisher a new book, which will be out late this year in October, of word of mouth and how same is lame. If you want your customers to talk about you, you have to do something different that they actually notice.
Cool. Wow, that seems interesting. Definitely gonna check it out. And tell me a little bit about.
If you go to talktriggers.com, Michael, you can just sign up with your email address, and my co-author Daniel Lemon and I will keep you up to date when the book is getting ready to be released. We'll have all kinds of special pre-order offers and all that kind of stuff. So right now we're just in the give us your email, we'll keep you posted phase. But talktriggers.com is the place to do that. Thanks.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, sounds good. And tell me about your utility books. I see that all over. It's on Amazon, right? And you're selling it at a bunch of different places.
Oh, yeah. Anywhere that you can get books, you can probably get all my books. Utility was my second book.
Yeah.
It's all about why help is better than hype. It's this idea that if you produce useful information, if you produce content that is so useful, people would pay for it if you ask them to do so. That over time, eventually some percentage of that audience, some percentage of those content consumers will actually do something that benefits your organization. So if you think about my own company, Convince and Convert, we have a very large blog, and we've got 1, 2, 3 podcasts that we produce every week, and a video series and a webinar series and ebook series and all this stuff. And all that content is created and distributed for free. Now that reaches millions of people a year, and some very, very small percentage of those folks end up
Yeah.
becoming clients or customers, but a larger percentage will advocate on our behalf or say nice things about us, as you did in your kind introduction. And so what utility really requires, and that's spelled YO utility if you're looking for it on Amazon or somewhere else, what utility really requires is trust in your customers and trusting that people will reward you eventually. And it requires patience, because it's not, hey, I read a blog post, now let me give you money. It's you build a relationship over time, and that relationship eventually culminates in a desirable business outcome.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I definitely want to touch on patience later on in the podcast. But
Sure.
no, that's really great, man. I really appreciate that. So, what really inspired you, Jay, to getting into the content marketing and customer experience game? I know you've been doing this for over 20, 25 years now. So what was really the drive behind it?
It was weird. Doing this for a long time, accidentally. Like before, it was actually, we called it content marketing. So I started off in journalism, and I went from journalism to politics. When I was in politics, I specialized in direct mail, which is certainly a form of content marketing. And then I spent time in radio and television, and so I had exposure to all these different media forms at a young age. And then when I started in the internet business in 1993, which is a long time ago in the internet game, we used content to try and attract new customers. Didn't know that's what we were doing. In fact, there was no name for it at that time. But we thought, well, why don't we just try to educate customers instead of trying to sell them? And eventually, sort of the idea of content marketing and the phrase content marketing was developed and popularized. And I sort of looked around and said, oh, that's what I've been doing this whole time. How about that?
That's cool. And we were talking a little bit about this earlier. So, the content marketing word, the definition, it just gets thrown around everywhere. A lot of marketers, at least from my experience, I've talked to a lot of different marketers, and they'll use content marketing, but it doesn't, the way they define it, it's like, I'm like, is that even the right way of defining it? As you being an influencer in this space, how would you really define content marketing the right way for people to know?
I mean, the way I describe it is that it's something that a business creates and distributes that either educates, informs, or entertains individuals so that eventually behavior change results, right? That eventually the people who consume that content think differently, act differently, feel differently, and that's at some point that benefits your business, because content marketing is about business, or at least it should be, right? The goal is not to be good at content. The goal is to be good at business because of content. And those aren't necessarily the same things. Like, this isn't fine art class, right? We're doing a podcast because eventually people will pay attention to your company and they'll hire you, the same reason I do a podcast, the same reason I write blog posts and books and all these things. And so there has to be an outcome there eventually. Where people get tripped up, though, Michael, is they think, well, geez, I just wrote this blog post. How come nobody's given me money yet? And it really is a longer term approach to customer acquisition. And that patience, the patience that's required for content marketing to work well, sometimes is difficult for people to embrace.
And do you mean, and I agree with you, I mean, so when you say outcome, do you mean as in terms of like, it should be used as kind of a lead gen tactic? You feel like it needs to have some type of, like, for example, SEO, how content SEO play, obviously there's you can't get good rankings on Google without good, valuable content with an intent behind the content, right? So is that kind of what you're talking about, or you feel that?
I mean, kind of, but I would take it
like
one step.
The way they feel about it.
I would take it one step further. Yeah, it's actually what happens, right? I take it one step further. So what's the point of having good rankings? No one pays you for being number 7 on Google. You don't get any money for that,
right?
You can't pay your mortgage with retweets either. You can't buy a car with podcast down. Have to be on the path to some sort of success, right? That because you've got better search rankings, more people come to your site, they find you. Once they find you, they engage with your content marketing, and then they fill out a lead form, or they advocate on your behalf, or they call you eventually, right? There has to be something at some point that actually benefits your organization. Otherwise, it's just exposure for exposure's sake, and that's not a business unless you're selling ads.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure you see a lot of people that they just kind of throw content out there, and there's number one, there's no value on the content. It's kind of just, I would say they're kind of not trying to reinvent the wheel, but I would say I see a lot of content that's just the same. You know what I mean? It's like you see the same.
Just okay. Yep.
Right, exactly. There's nothing really there that's going to help me. And I think that when they are writing this content, they have to think about, number one, the audience. They have to think about the value they're going to provide to them, and think about how it's really going to inspire them, how they're going to actually help these people who are reading this content. And like you said, there needs to be some type of funnel or outcome or something when they read it. Where is it going to go after that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think people get caught up in, especially people who are content marketing practitioners, they get caught up in, look how great we're doing at content. We have so many page views. We have so many tweets. We have so many followers. We have so many shares. It's like, well, okay, but that's not a business.
Yeah.
Right. That's just reach, right? That's just awareness, right? So it's not the same thing. So, and I would say when we come in a consulting environment at Convince and Convert and work with big brands on these issues, the first thing we do is we say, stop the random acts of content, right? Stop just making stuff for no reason. Content ain't free, right? You know, it costs time. It costs time and money to make this podcast. It costs time and money to write a blog post. It costs time and money to do an ebook. It costs time and money to do a video. It all costs time and money. It's not free. There's no content tree that you're just like picking things off of for free. And so you just got to make sure that if you're spending the time and money, that there's a reason for that.
Right. And a purpose. It kind of, I completely agree. Oh, that's great. I'm sure a lot of people are going to appreciate that information. So, you know, with you being an influencer in this space, Jay, and this is what I really want to talk about in this episode, is with your experience and your skills in content marketing, customer experience, is that what led you to becoming an influencer in this space, or you think it was something else? For example, like hard work or consistency, or maybe being unique. There's something unique about you or your company. Like, what do you think really was helped you to becoming an influencer in this space? Because you know, I'm sure you hear this a lot. Hey, Jay, how do I become an authority figure in my area? You know what I mean? And I know it's not like a simple this and that, but kind of explain that a little bit.
Well, a part of it is being consistent, right? You know, I wrote 4 blog posts a week every week for 8 years, right? And so that's a long time, right? And before I wrote a single blog post, right, I'd started 3 multi-million-dollar companies and started and worked with tons and tons of big brands all over the world and done a lot of other things, right? I didn't just say, hey, I should start a blog today, and I don't actually know anything. And also some of it's consistency.
Yeah.
Some of it is focus, is to say, okay, this is what I know, and I'm going to create content about what I know. And I think some of it is just, I think it would be disingenuous to suggest that everybody is equally good at creating content, right? Yeah. I'm a better writer than most people. I'm probably better at podcasting than most people. Now, that I'm by no means the best. I'm not even great, but I'm better than if you just grab somebody off the street. And so over time, if you happen to be decent at those things, that's going to help too, right? I mean, you know, yes, you need to be focused, and yes, you need to have a strategy, and yes, you need to be consistent. But at the same time, you know, some blog posts are better than other blog posts because they're just sharper, right? They're just better written, and so that matters too, I think, at some point. Yeah,
and you feel that? I mean, obviously, I have this podcast. You guys have a very successful podcast. Was it over 65 or 70,000 downloads a month? Is that something like that? It's well over that, right?
You with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
so your podcast, you guys have over 65 or 70,000 downloads a month, something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I feel like podcasts are really in trend, and video content too. You think that's you think that's not going anywhere? You think that's really the future of content right now?
I don't know if I would say the future of content to the degree that there's no room for writing. I think there is, but certainly podcasts will continue to succeed because it's the only multitaskable content format, right? You can commute to work and listen to a podcast. You can run and listen to a podcast. You can use your snowblower and listen to a podcast. You can't use your snowblower and read a blog post. At least you probably shouldn't.
That's true.
So you know, you can do it in more windows of your life. And that's one of the things that's powering podcast listenership now. And the numbers are up year after year on podcasts. Video also incredibly important, but for a different reason. Video, of course, touches more of your senses than does text. It's just the way it works, right? You have the and so as we're at this point now, especially with 5G coming out, where streaming video is no big deal. Like you can stream video from your phone over 4G, even over 3G in some circumstances. There's no more barrier to video, and consequently, what you're seeing is this huge rise of short form video content. Now, I feel like at some point we're going to have a pendulum swing back the other way a little bit, because when everybody's making relatively mediocre short form video content, then what's going to work is something that's different than that, right? Is long form text will work again. For example, right now, because of the huge rise of email, and it's just much easier to send somebody something electronically, one of the best marketing tactics out there is direct mail, right? Something that actually comes in your U.S. Postal Service mailbox, which for years and years and years and years and years was viewed as a poor marketing tactic because people just look at that mail and throw it away. Well, people get a lot less mail now. And so if you do something interesting and cool and dynamic in an actual mailbox, it will work disproportionately. So it's all about counter programming, right? So if everybody's doing one thing, what you should be thinking about is how can I do the exact opposite of that thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, like if you go back on, you talked about a little bit about, you mentioned strategy as one of the elements in regards to providing good content and purpose. I've seen so many people, Jay, that have wasted time and money on areas where their audience isn't even there. You know how there's so many different social platforms now, right? And I think there's more even coming out. But people, it seems like a lot of, even I see people they've been doing it for a long time, and even digital marketing companies that I've seen, and they're just kind of posting content everywhere, but there's not, it's like, why are they even posting there? Is the audience even there? Do you think that, like for you, how did you identify your audience on certain platforms and really target them effectively? Is there anything that you did, or was it just trial and error over time?
Definitely trial and error at some level. And I'd say we still don't have it figured out entirely, because what people want in different platforms change. Like right now, we're putting more emphasis on LinkedIn. We're seeing a real renaissance, putting less effort on Facebook than we have in the past. Yeah. And so you sort of have to change your strategy based on conditions on the ground. But I'll tell you the one thing that doesn't work, and this probably is intuitive, but I've also tested it, is say, let's do the exact same thing in every platform every day. It just doesn't work. Like you can't just copy and paste your content or your tweet or what have you across every social network and every platform. It just doesn't work. Yeah. It won't work.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's definitely a lot of trial and error. And if you noticed, have you noticed, like on Facebook, for example, organic or just organic posts on Facebook, it only reaches like 5 or 6% of your audience. Isn't that right? It seems like they're targeting more. It's more towards paid content. Do you kind of agree with that? You think things are more towards paid, at least on Facebook? Since they went public, it seems like things have changed.
Well, sure. And I think we have to remember, Michael, that Facebook is a public company, right? They have a legal and fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit for their shareholders, not you, right? They're not a utility, right? They're not a public trust. It is not their responsibility to make you money. It's their responsibility to make them money. Yeah. And for a really, really long time, we sort of had a free lunch. It was like, okay, build a Facebook business page and you can publish something, and Facebook's going to cost nothing, right? They won't charge you for the page. They won't charge you to publish. It's a party, right? And the reality is no other form of marketing works like that. You can't send email for free, right? Emma's going to charge you money to be your internet service provider, or MailChimp, or anybody, or Infusionsoft, or whatever. Right. All of that costs money. HubSpot costs money. Videos cost money to create. YouTube is still free, but the creation is not free in many cases. And so this expectation that Facebook would give you essentially free advertising forever was probably ridiculous to begin with. And so, I mean, it is an advertising platform now for all intents and purposes. And you either decide to pay or you decide to try and reach your customers somewhere else. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And do you feel the same kind of about Twitter? Because they're a massive company as well. And they're seems like they're making a lot of money too. What do you kind of think about Twitter's approach? You think they're very different than Facebook? in terms of organic content?
A little bit. I would suggest that organic reach for businesses on Twitter is not as difficult to accrue as it is on Facebook. Some of that is philosophy between the two companies. Some of it's algorithm. Some of it's size.
Right.
I mean, Facebook literally punishes businesses now. They say content from people is going to rank better than content from businesses. Period. Right.
I've noticed that.
Twitter has not said that. Twitter has not said that businesses are in second class and people are in first class. Partially because there is no clean way to determine what is a business page on Twitter and what is a personal page. Like you don't sign up for them differently the way you do on Facebook.
Right.
So from an algorithm standpoint, it's a little bit harder to make that distinction. So I would say that organic reach and organic results is probably a little bit easier on Twitter today. I would also argue that Twitter's advertising mechanics are not quite as easy to use as Facebook's, and so you have fewer people advertising on Twitter, partially because it's harder to do so, and partially because they've had great success with Facebook advertising. So I don't think it's the same. I think it's similar. I would suggest if you look at one and say, hey, the same thing's going to happen, it would of course be Instagram, since Facebook owns Instagram, and what we have seen suppression of business reach and an encouragement of advertising will, I'm almost positive, will happen on Instagram, and you're already seeing evidence of that.
Yeah. No, and you know, I like what you kind of talked about with you know, personal versus company. And you know, I mean, for everyone that's trying, or for the people out there that are trying to become influencers or authority figures in their space, I guess it's kind of the dream nowadays is to, you know, like yourself, talk around the world, speak about something that they love, something that they're passionate about, that they're good at. You know, but in order to get there, you know, I think it requires a lot of self-branding, you know, and also company branding, leveraging their company as well. Do you think there's that? What do you see the difference is in terms of social media? Like, do you think it's better to focus on branding yourself because people can connect with you easier than connecting with a company? Because don't you think, like, with a company that they feel like they're being sold, but with you, like, if you talk to me instead of convert talking to me, I would feel more engaged, more reason to engage back with you.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah. There's no question. There's no question that we trust people more than we trust businesses.
Yeah.
There's lots of research on that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why my new book is about word of mouth, is that people are the power now, right? People can drive business results in a way that they couldn't previously. So yes, we trust individuals, which is why if you look at my site at convinceandconvert.com,
right,
it says convinceandconvert.com with Jay Baer. I mean, it's a whole company, right? But we still try and associate my name with it. My face is on the homepage because people know and hopefully trust me probably more than they know and trust my company. And so you don't want to you don't want to lose that, right? And so
face to the name. Yep.
Right, exactly. And so that's easier. That's an easier playbook for companies that are smaller like mine, as opposed to, you know, Ford or IBM or, you know, some huge organization, Cheesecake Factory, right? It's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder when you're a bigger company to put a face, but it's not impossible. Think about Wendy's and Dave Thomas, the former founder of Wendy's and now deceased. He starred in those commercials. You look at a more modern example. Look at what KFC is doing right now with all the different Colonel Sanders characters that they're putting out there. You know, every month. You think about the character of Colonel Sanders more so than the corporation of Kentucky Fried Chicken. So it's a very strong strategy. Not everybody can do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and I completely agree. You know, I think connecting your someone's face, so like having that personal touch to the company is, you know, going to do wonders for the company and for that person. I think it definitely
assuming
trust.
Yes, assuming that person has a good reputation, right? So you
Correct.
can't just like put any face out there and say, hey, you know, we got it covered, man, because now we got this guy. You know, you have to have some you have to have some trust built into that person as well. But it can absolutely. One of the things that's a challenge about that, though, Michael, is in a circumstance like ours, for example, I'll write a blog post, and then the question internally becomes, okay, should we share that blog post on my page? Well, probably. Should we also share it on the company page? Maybe. And then we've got 2 Instagram accounts, we've got 2 Facebook accounts, we've got 2 LinkedIn accounts, and so you start thinking about from a content promotion perspective. Does everything I write get promoted by the company? And if somebody else in the company writes something on our blog, do I promote it on my personal page? You just sort of get some of this. It's just a little bit confusing sometimes, even for us.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it. And I know that you're. I saw the podcast. I know you interviewed Gary Vee. I think it was like twice, right? Gary Vaynerchuk. And
yeah,
I know you're.
I know him. I've known him for a long time. I've known him since, really since before he became Gary Vee, when he was first starting Wine Library TV. Yeah. Which is his long running video series on wine tasting, and he taught me a lot about wine, and I was just a fan. And then I happened to meet him in a couple of events. We spent a bunch of time together, and so I've known him for. Probably close to, say, a decade, pretty close to a decade, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, Gary Vee is well known as well. And this is the thing, I like what you guys said on your podcast when I heard it a few times, actually, is that you talk a lot, you both seem to agree and talk a lot about good motives, intent, empathy, and patience. And I'm really close to those as well. Like, I completely agree with those, and that's helped me to get to where I am as well. Because I think a lot of people, they have, especially the kind of the millennials, starting businesses and things like that. Yeah. They want things very quickly, and there's a lot of instant gratification. I know, like I said, I'm sure you agree, and I know Gary Vee agrees with all this. But how do you think empathy, patience, and motive play a role into where you are today?
Well, I mean, certainly from a patience standpoint, I've been fortunate enough to have some patience. When I sold my last firm, before I started Convince to Convert, I had some money in the bank, and that gives you it just gives you a little more cushion to be patient, right? So Gary rails about this all the time. That people try something for 6 months, and they strive for 6 months. They're like, well, how come I'm not a millionaire yet? And he always tells them, like, you're not being patient enough, and that's true. He's right about that. But it's easier to be patient when you have tons of cash laying around, as Gary does, and so it is important to not fool yourself into thinking that this is all going to magically happen overnight. You've got to give yourself some time,
right?
And part of that is part of what works with patience is motives, right? People, you know how they say that dogs can smell fear. I mean, I totally believe that to be true.
Yeah.
I feel like content consumers can smell motives. Like, they know if you're actually giving away valuable information because you want people to learn versus you're giving away valuable information because you want to trick them into some sort of funnel sequence that eventually is going to yield a customer, right? And so I mentioned this earlier, that it to me, the key is trust. You just have to trust that people will consume your information and will reward you eventually. If you feel like you can't trust people, that you have to make sure that they're going to reward you, well, then you should be selling online courses, right? Or something that has a very direct path to revenue, right? Like,
that's
okay,
true.
I know this thing, give me money and I'll teach you. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Mm-hmm. It's not about trust then. It's about quid pro quo.
Yep.
I prefer a trust model. Not that I haven't done online courses, I have, but I prefer a trust model, and so does Gary, which is we're just going to give you a ton of stuff, and eventually it's going to work out for us. And that does require some patience. It requires some trust. It requires some faith, and it's not for everybody. And I think that's the key lesson here. Gary is a very compelling character, a friend, but his approach is not for everybody. And I think he would say the same thing. You just have to understand that if you have the stomach for it, he'll tell you how to do it right. But not everybody has a stomach for it. The same way that not everybody has a stomach to be an entrepreneur or run their own company or skydive or anything else, right? So what I always tell people is, look, play your own game. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to learn from me, great. You want to learn from Michael, that's great. You want to learn from Gary, that's great. There's a million people out there you can learn from. But ultimately, you got to play your own game. Like, don't just take somebody else's formula and say, okay, I'm going to do that step by step. That's stupid.
Yeah, man, I really, I love hearing this, man, because I completely understand that. And for me, starting my company 6 years ago, Imagine Innovation, it was just so much patience required. But there's definitely, I think Grant Cardone as well. He talks a lot about like more aggressive patience, not just sitting there waiting for things to happen, but obviously there's patience and understanding that there's going to be struggle. It's going to take time to get what you want, be where you want to be, but you got to work hard. You got to grind hard. And I know
you got to optimize, right? That's what we always, you got to optimize. It can't just be like, well, I'm doing the same stuff and it still's not working. So eventually it'll work. Probably not. Right. And so, because I come from a digital marketing background, what I always think is like ABT, right? Always be testing. So you got to be patient, but every single time you publish something, you should be testing it. Well, what if I tried it this way? What if I tried it that way? What if I tried it this way? And eventually the right approach for you, I think will show itself. But Grant's exactly right about that. You can't just like, well, I'm continuing to create the world's worst whatever, and someday people will think it's great. No, they won't.
Yep. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's crazy stuff. I mean, do you? So I know you've invested in a lot of different startups and things like that. Do you think a lot of these startups or even millennials, do you think that they're less patient nowadays than before? Or what do you think about that?
I don't think so. I don't think that startup founders are less patient because they've always been impatient, right? They've never been patient, and that's the nature of a startup founder, and that's probably a good thing. Do I feel like millennials as a generation are less patient in general? Yeah, probably. Weapon to deploy,
right.
And I think you can look at it two ways. You can say, hey, you're not patient, therefore you are unrealistic. Mm-hmm. And that's one way to look at it. I think it's commonly discussed. But I think the other way to look at it is you're not patient, therefore you're not accepting out of hand of what the current situation is, right? And so, what the flip side of patience is maybe hope, right? Or belief that something can change. And that's always, I think, good in some ways. We have some millennials on my team, and it's always interesting to see how, in my estimation, maybe they're less patient, but I think they're also more optimistic. And that's kind of a refreshing breeze sometimes.
Yeah, and it seems like they're not willing to. It seems like they're very willing to put in the hard work and effort into it. So
yeah, I mean, look, I when I bring people onto any team, I always find that the best filtering mechanism, at least for me, is somebody who's not willing to accept the status quo. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Change or be made better, something like that.
Right. I mean, yeah. So, like, aside of patience, Jay, what do you think are, like, what tips would you give some future business leaders, influencers in your space on how to succeed?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's pretty important and also a little bit tricky is that I'll tell you, especially when you're starting out, the most important word in business is not yes, it's no. Mm-hmm. The tendency, especially when you're starting out, is to say, okay, any opportunity that's even conceivably theoretically relevant, I'm going to jump on that opportunity because you're like, I'll do anything. I'll wash cars. I'll bake cookies. Like, you're like, just I'll got to do something. And that tends to mess up your focus, right? Because you're doing all these things that don't really fit together. And so if you have the patience, right, and you have the clarity of what you're really good at,
right,
I think the better approach is to say, nah, that is a cool opportunity, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this other thing, and I'm going to wait until I can continue to do the things that I'm really, really good at. Derek Sivers, who's an incredible, incredible author and thought leader, maybe among other things, Derek has a terrific saying that I love all the time, which is, when you're presented with an opportunity, whether it's dinner with friends or a podcast or anything else in your life, there's only two options. There's only two answers. And the answers are either hell yes or no. And it's a good way to live your life. It really is. If you're not totally into it, say no, because you're not going to do a great job and you're not going to love it. If you're not totally into it when they ask you, then why would you think you're going to be totally into it halfway through? And so having the courage to say no is, I really believe, one of the key factors to business success, especially for entrepreneurs and early stage companies.
Yeah, That's amazing. No, all this is great, Jay. I really appreciate it. So just to kind of close things out, where can everyone find you?
I should be relatively easy to find, which I guess is a good thing. The best place to go is convinceandconvert.com, which has our blog, our podcast network, all the content. My personal site for speaking and things along those lines is at jaybaer.com, Baer. And of course, you can find me at Jay Baer on all the social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Medium, etc.
Perfect. Jay, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. It's an honor having you here. I know you're super busy and you're traveling tomorrow, right? So really appreciate taking the time to talk with me.
67 events I'll do this year, something like that. So got to keep the airplane in the air.
Busy man. Cool. Well, everyone,
thanks, fella. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. And this is Michael Giorgio from Tales from the Pros. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Thanks a lot for watching Tales from the Pros. Please subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow our social media. There are links somewhere around here. But we really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for all the support. And I'm going to be giving you awesome content continuously. And we look forward to seeing you soon.